What if I told you that there is a medical intervention that is so powerful that it can reduce your blood pressure by 15 to up to 30 points without a single trip to the pharmacy, a copay, or even side effects? In clinical trials, this intervention was sometimes even more effective than 3 different blood pressure medications combined. So what is this miracle intervention? It's not a new drug. Instead, it's a radical shift to what you put on your plate. Hi guys, my name is Liz. I'm an epidemiologist, plant-based nutrition specialist, and health coach. This month is High Blood Pressure Education Month, and because of that, we're going to talk about some of the clinical trials that have provided evidence for radical dietary change as an intervention for people who want to improve their blood pressure. We'll talk about the evolution of dietary research starting from the 1940s all the way to modern day nutrition research. In the US, patients with hypertension that have health insurance are paying an average of around $500 to $1,000 annually out of pocket for their hypertension care. For people that don't have health insurance, the estimates are much higher if they are actually able to seek care and treatment at all. The global economic burden of hypertensive care is estimated to be around $370 billion every single year. Okay, so hypertension is an expensive health condition, but at least by treating it, we can help people to get it under control, right? Well, yes and no. When someone is able to get their hypertension under control, then that helps them to prevent further damage to their arteries and to their organs. That's a really good thing. But the challenge with taking blood pressure medications without addressing the root cause of that hypertension is that if you ever miss a dose of your medication, then you can expect that you might see your blood pressure rebounding up to dangerous levels. So what does this signal? It signals that while hypertension drugs are able to help a lot of people prevent further organ damage to their bodies from their high blood pressure, it isn't a cure for hypertension. It converts what can be a really deadly disease into a disease that is controlled and managed through a medication. But if you don't actually address what is causing this disease, you can expect to be dependent upon these medications for the rest of your life. Hopefully, your next question here is, how do we get to the root cause of hypertension? Well, this is where the research comes in. Before modern drugs for hypertension, there was Dr. Kempner at Duke University who was treating malignant hypertension, which was a death sentence at that time, with a diet of white rice, sugar, and fruit, and nothing more. He documented massive reversals of heart failure and kidney damage, and proved that diet alone could do in the 1940s what no medication was yet able to do. While his particular diet prescription isn't recommended today, it really laid the groundwork for future research on how diet can impact hypertension. Fast forward to 1990, and you have Dr. Dean Ornish conducting a randomized controlled trial where he put his patients on a strict plant-based diet combined with exercise and stress management. And in his patients, he saw the reversal of coronary artery disease without the need for surgery or drugs. Jump ahead a few more years to 1997 when the DASH study was conducted. Their approach was not exclusively vegetarian, but it was high in fruits, vegetables, and low-fat dairy. In that study, in just 2 weeks, participants saw a significant drop in their blood pressure, particularly among the participants in the study that ate the most fruits and vegetables, as well as had reduced sodium. Jump ahead a few years to 2002, and that was the year that the Adventist health study began, and this study was huge in that they enrolled 96,000 participants in the US and Canada, and also huge because of the impact that they uncovered in this study. Comparing them to omnivores, they found that flexitarians or semi-vegetarians had a 23% reduced risk of hypertension, that pescatarians had a 38% reduced risk of hypertension, and that vegans had a 63% reduced risk of hypertension compared to omnivores. What this study showed was that there's a dose-response effect where the more that someone moved away from animal products, say from omnivore to flexitarian or semi-vegetarian to pescatarian, vegetarian, or vegan, the lower their risk of hypertension became. In 2003, the EPIC Oxford study began, and this study followed 11,000 participants, and they found that it was meat eaters that had the highest blood pressure while the vegan group had the lowest blood pressure. This study was also interesting because when they controlled for weight and they compared people that were in the same weight or BMI categories, they found that the vegan groups still had lower hypertension risk compared to their meat-eating counterparts. In 2014, a team of researchers compiled a meta-analysis, which is a research study that compiles the data and the results of a number of studies into one to compare them. And they looked at the effects of plant-based eating on a large scale. They reviewed the data of 7 clinical trials and 32 observational studies, and they found that vegetarian diets were associated with a 6.9 and 4.7 point reduction in systolic and diastolic blood pressure compared to omnivorous diets. These drops in blood pressure are similar to what someone might see if they start taking a blood pressure medication or if they lose weight as well. And then in 2017, the BROAD study put participants with obesity, heart disease, or diabetes on a whole foods plant-based diet where they had no restrictions whatsoever on how many calories they could consume or the quantity or volume of their food. The study saw a significant reduction despite the fact that these participants were not given food to eat, but instead were preparing their own meals themselves without any restrictions on how much they could eat. You might be thinking, these are large nutritional studies. Are the results of these studies even relevant to your own life? And how do they translate to you individually? If you made similar changes to your own diet, would you see similar results? A 2020 study in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that people who made even modest shifts towards a more plant-based diet later in life, they were still able to significantly reduce their own cardiovascular risk. Those who had the highest intake of plant foods and the lowest intake of animal products had a 16% lower risk of cardiovascular disease and a 25% lower all-cause mortality. This study also found a dose-response effect to increasing plant-based foods in your diet. When someone increased the presence of plant-based foods in their diet, the risk of heart failure and high blood pressure dropped. Even just making a 5% shift in calories from animal protein to plant proteins actually showed a significant reduction in mortality. The main takeaway here is that you don't have to be vegan or on a whole foods plant-based diet in order to begin to see these benefits. You can start to address the root causes of hypertension and therefore help to prevent yourself from potentially developing hypertension or to help improve your health if you've already got it. For more resources or information on this topic, please visit plantpresence.com. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.